Do you remember coming home after school and having complete freedom to decide how to spend your afternoon? Do you remember experiencing genuine boredom, with nothing but your imagination and creativity to guide you? Do you remember growing up before smartphones and constant connectivity shaped everyone's daily life? If you were born between 1965 and 1980, you're part of Generation X, a generation that experienced a unique childhood environment between two larger generations. Psychology researchers are discovering something interesting. That particular childhood of independence, analog experiences, and self-directed time. It created specific psychological patterns that shape how you think, make decisions, and approach life's challenges. These traits influence your behavior in ways you might never have considered. So, let's explore what makes this generation psychologically distinctive. You likely experienced a childhood where you were given house keys at a young age and trusted to manage your own time, where your caregivers would share their plans and expect you to handle things independently until they returned. You probably remember Saturday mornings with complete autonomy, watching television, reading, or creating your own activities without constant adult direction. You experienced genuine periods of having nothing to do, and learned to create your own entertainment and problem solve independently. You memorized important phone numbers because that was the practical way to stay connected with friends and family. You likely spent hours outdoors with simple guidelines about when to return home, developing independence and decision-making skills. Disagreements happened directly, in person, with immediate feedback. You learned to navigate interpersonal situations in real time. You developed problem-solving abilities because getting help often required significant effort and resourcefulness. You grew up in an environment that emphasized individual capability and personal responsibility. This unique upbringing created measurable differences in how you process information and approach life situations. Psychology researchers and social scientists have studied generational differences extensively, and Generation X presents a distinctive behavioral profile. You're often described as the latchkey generation, the first widespread group raised with significant daily independence. Rather than viewing this as a challenge, research shows it created something psychologists call adaptive independence, the capacity to self-direct, make autonomous decisions, and manage situations without requiring constant external guidance or validation. Developmental psychology research describes your childhood as a high-autonomy environment with reduced supervision. Adults in your early life weren't constantly monitoring your location or activities. They weren't involved in resolving every disagreement or preventing every disappointment. Neuroscience research now indicates this created specific cognitive patterns, ways of thinking about resilience, self-direction, and decision-making that differ measurably from other generational groups. Your childhood experiences shaped particular neural pathways related to independence and problem-solving. Today we'll examine 5 psychological traits commonly observed in Generation X, not as value judgments, but as distinctive patterns shaped by specific childhood environments. Behavioral characteristics that research shows are measurably different from preceding and following generations. Number 1. Self-directed problem solving. This first observable trait is strong self-directed problem solving. Generation X typically learned early that immediate help wasn't always available, so independent solutions became necessary. You were not able to access online tutorials instantly. For quick answers, you do not have search engines. An adult wasn't always there to help you with every problem. This environment created what psychologists call problem-solving autonomy. Research shows this created a specific cognitive pattern. You typically default to self-sufficiency in challenging situations. When something requires fixing, the first instinct is often attempting it yourself. When information is needed, there's typically an attempt to figure it out before seeking help. When facing difficulties, there's often internal processing before reaching out to others. It's not an ego thing, that's just how you were raised to deal with problems. The research shows that self-direction became associated with capability and competence. In organizational settings where independent initiative is valued, this trait often proves beneficial. Number 2. Comfort with uncertainty. Generation X typically demonstrates unusual comfort with ambiguous situations. Your childhood occurred without constant information updates or continuous connectivity. When caregivers were away, you often didn't know their precise location or exact return time. When meeting friends, you established a time and place. If someone didn't arrive, you simply waited a reasonable period or made alternative plans. There was no continuous communication asking for updates every few minutes. This environment created what psychologists call high tolerance for ambiguity, the ability to function effectively without complete information or constant status updates. Usually, you can function well without being fully informed. Uncertainty is frequently tolerable without causing decision paralysis. Because it's a well-known cognitive process, you can make decisions based on incomplete information. Research indicates this trait has become less common in more recent generations. Younger groups, raised with immediate answers and constant connectivity, sometimes show different patterns with ambiguous situations. Generation X's cognitive development occurred in an environment that normalized uncertainty. In unpredictable environments, this represents a significant cognitive advantage. Number 3. Internal emotional processing. Here's a trait that functions as both a capability and an occasional challenge. Generation X typically demonstrates strong internal emotional processing abilities. Your developmental years involved learning to manage emotions without constant external support. When experiencing difficult feelings, frustration, disappointment, uncertainty, or anger, you learned to process them independently. There was not a constant adult presence asking about feelings or validating every emotional experience. You learned self-calming techniques, distraction methods, or simply continuing despite discomfort. This created what psychologists call an internal locus of emotional regulation, managing emotional states through internal processes rather than seeking external comfort as a first response. You typically demonstrate high resilience and can maintain composure during challenging situations without requiring immediate support. Sometimes this pattern can lead to under-communicating needs, even when support would be beneficial. You might process everything internally, even when sharing would improve the situation. Others sometimes interpret this as emotional distance, when it's actually emotional self-sufficiency. However, in high-pressure situations, this trait often makes you a stabilizing presence. You typically maintain calm functioning when others experience heightened stress responses. Number 4. Questioning orientation. If you're Gen X, there's a good chance you ask questions before accepting things at face value. Not because you enjoy being difficult, you just prefer to understand what's actually going on before you commit to believing something. Think about what you watched unfold during your formative years. Companies you thought were untouchable went under overnight. Leaders in every field, business, government, media, turned out to be less reliable than advertised. The economy shifted under your parents' feet, and family structures changed in ways previous generations hadn't experienced at that scale. So you learned to pay attention. You started noticing patterns. You developed what psychologists call critical thinking orientation, a cognitive habit of pausing before you accept new information. This doesn't mean you distrust everything. It means you verify. You look at who's saying something, why they might be saying it, and whether other credible sources agree. You weigh multiple perspectives before forming your own. Younger colleagues sometimes read this as pessimism or cynicism, but it's not about expecting the worst. It's about preparing for multiple outcomes, because experience taught you that's the smart move. Hope for the best, yes, but also map the terrain and know where the exits are. In workplaces that value careful evaluation, this questioning orientation is an asset. You're the person who spots the gap in the plan, who asks the question no one else thought to ask, who saves the team from an expensive mistake 3 months down the line. Let's move on to the most fascinating one. Number 5. Delayed gratification capacity. This is something that really sets Gen X apart from every other living generation. You remember what it was like to wait for things and not lose your mind in the process. You remember planning your entire week around a single TV show, because if you missed it, that was it. No pause button, no rewind, no streaming library. Just one shot, one time slot, and you either caught it or you didn't. You remember loading film into a camera, taking 24 or 36 pictures over days or weeks, then waiting even longer to see if any of them turned out. The anticipation was part of the experience. You remember wanting to know something, really wanting to understand a topic, and having to wait until you could get to a library or track down someone who knew the answer. Google didn't exist. YouTube didn't exist. You had to sit with your curiosity until you could do something about it. This wasn't frustrating for you because it was just normal. That's how life worked. And in the process, you developed what psychologists call delayed gratification tolerance. The ability to want something, wait for it, and stay motivated the entire time. This patience didn't just apply to entertainment. It shaped how you think about effort and time. You learned that worthwhile things often take a while, that progress isn't always instant, that the gap between "I want this" and "I have this" is a space you can occupy without anxiety. Modern research consistently shows that delayed gratification capacity predicts long-term success across almost every area of life: career stability, financial health, relationship satisfaction, personal goal achievement. For Gen X, this wasn't taught in a classroom. It was woven into your daily life, year after year, until it became part of how your brain approaches challenges. Which of these 5 traits do you recognize in yourself or others? Share a number in the comments, 1 through 5. I want to see which pattern appears most frequently. Now let's talk about why do these behavioral patterns matter in current contexts? Because the environment Generation X is navigating as adults aligns interestingly with your cognitive traits. We're currently in an era characterized by continuous change and evolving circumstances, high information volume and institutional questioning, economic unpredictability and career flexibility requirements, and diverse perspectives and complex decision-making. Generation X cognitive patterns align well with this environment. Your self-directed problem-solving means you adapt without waiting for external direction. Your comfort with uncertainty means you function without requiring complete information. Your internal emotional processing means you maintain stability during unpredictable periods. Your questioning orientation means you evaluate information rather than accepting it automatically. Your patience capacity means you can work toward extended timeline goals. Your independent thinking means you navigate complexity without predetermined conclusions. Your humor-based processing means you acknowledge challenges while maintaining functional capacity. These aren't random personality characteristics. They're adaptive cognitive patterns shaped by specific developmental environments, and they're proving relevant in current circumstances. We should also acknowledge that every strength has considerations. Your self-directed problem-solving can sometimes mean declining help, even when collaboration would be beneficial. Your comfort with uncertainty can occasionally become avoidance of commitment when decisions would serve you better. Your internal emotional processing can sometimes mean undersharing when communication would improve relationships. Your questioning orientation can occasionally become reflexive disagreement rather than genuine evaluation. Your patience can sometimes mean tolerating situations that would benefit from active change. Your independent thinking can occasionally become an automatic rejection of popular ideas, regardless of merit. Your humor can sometimes create emotional distance when genuine vulnerability would deepen connections. The most psychologically balanced individuals recognize these patterns and intentionally work to balance their natural strengths with conscious choices about connection, expression, and strategic trust. Here's the interesting observation about Generation X psychology. You're positioned between 2 larger, more publicly discussed generations, and that positioning influenced your development significantly. Situated between the attention-focused baby boomers and the substantially larger millennial and Gen Z cohorts, you learn to function without a spotlight, without celebration, and without continuous external validation. This created an interesting pattern. You're simultaneously highly self-sufficient and sometimes underconnected, highly resilient and sometimes overly self-protective, highly independent while sometimes quietly desiring genuine understanding. You don't require constant attention, but recognition still matters. If you're Generation X, which trait do you most recognize? And which consideration are you most aware of? Share in the comments. Let's create some generational dialogue. According to studies, there are specific components that make up Generation X's psychology. You developed in an environment emphasizing independence, were shaped by uncertainty, and learned significant self-direction. You learn to solve challenges without detailed instructions, to manage discomfort without external intervention, to process emotions using internal resources, to question information before accepting it, to wait patiently without losing focus, to think independently without requiring group alignment, to use humor as a cognitive processing tool. These patterns don't make you superior to other generational groups. They make you distinctive. And in current environments characterized by complexity and change, your cognitive patterns may be particularly relevant. You're not the most vocal generation, but research suggests you may be among the most adaptable. Your independence represents capability. Your questioning represents critical thinking. Your humor represents cognitive adaptation. These traits contribute meaningfully to diverse environments. Understanding generational patterns helps us appreciate different approaches to common challenges. If this helped you understand Generation X psychology, consider subscribing. This is Unfelt, where we explore behavioral science and generational research. Subscribe for educational content about psychology and human behavior. Comment, what generation are you, and what did you find most interesting about these patterns? Until next time, stay curious about what shapes how we think.